Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. More Birthright here as we keep working our way through the Blood Enemies expansion. Another Onshay for you guys today. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Manticore, which is a frightening prospect here. As we can see from the pretty nasty and scary picture here. The other important thing here, before we really get started, guys, if you get a chance, check us out on our Patreon. If you want to support the channel a little bit more, you get to see videos like this a week early on average, and then there's other exclusive Birthright content on there, other D&D settings as well, just some general role-playing stuff as well, and even some things that we cover for other games. And again, all that support really helps us get this content out to you guys and catching up on acquiring any modules and other stuff that we might need to bring said content to you guys. So that being said, let's jump into the Manticore. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one just because he's got a 4-page entry here. So again, the initial format of all these entries is that they take the form of like an interview with those Onshay that are capable of communication. So let's start with that little bit of background blurb here so they kind of get to introduce themselves. No, I am sorry, learned ones. The Manticore is not one to be disturbed lightly. While we advisors and folk of knowledge understand the importance of proper historical records, I'm afraid our liege deems them of little import to him. If you should need an account of the Manticore's arrival in our lands, then I, his faithful Iore, can accommodate you in that. Soon after the Magian began his conquest of the Essenschal Peninsula and the domain therein, news of the atrocities committed there spread. Just-minded folk for domains around were outraged and set out to stop this interloper. Kandar, the righteous, a paladin of Avani, and relation to the ruling bloodline of Jafra, joined the many heroes seeking to stop the Magian. Nothing was heard for months, though news often moved slowly through enemy lines. After a year, most folks assumed the heroes were either captured or dead, and that was correct. Of 30 crusading heroes that set out to stop the Magian, only 7 returned home, scarred and broken. 9 of the 30 heroes had blooded abilities, and of these, only Kandar escaped after nearly a year in captivity. He came north, avoiding his normal haunts, and arrived in our fair land 4 years ago, a broken, tormented soul. He was a friend of my cousin, the crown prince of the realm, and the royal family took him in. He told of unspeakable tortures and some strange magical ceremony forced upon him by the Magian itself, which should have been a red flag, right? While he didn't elaborate, he said that since that time his demeanor had turned dark, his temper raged to break his control, and he could not use his paladin abilities. Again, red flag. Soon after his arrival, the entire royal family was found slaughtered in its banquet hall, victims of his rage. With the assumption of their blooded abilities, his corruption was revealed. He had become an Onshay. He now had a massive tail and claws that ripped right through his own skin, and he became known as the Manticore. To quote, I and all of us here serve him out of fear, though I must admit he tries to fight his now corrupt nature. That's probably also one of the, for those where that is true, that is also one of the sort of tragic things for a lot of these Onshay. Rather than return to lands of his own people, he remains here, his power tied to the land, where he will not bring harm upon his own family and comrades in Jafra. Would that he thought so kindly of our people, though. So let's take a look at his stats and what that means for maybe those trying to have an encounter with him. Intelligence of 12, so nothing too scary there. Basically active whenever, although mainly at night. Considered an omnivore, lawful evil, so at least he's not chaotic yet. A movement of 9, he's 8 feet tall now. Base armor class of 5, so again using this is the old second ed system, so bumping him up to maybe like 15 base, and then like 22 with armor on. Pretty big hit point pool, 120, counts as a level 14 fighter. Thaco doesn't exist anymore, 2 attacks per round. And again, you can feel free to customize a little bit depending on what edition you're putting him in, but damage per attack 2d8 slash 2d8, so basically 4d8 across the whole attack range, or with any specific weapon. So the 2d8 would, I think, just be with the claws. Has some special attacks with weapon specialization. No magic defense or resistance, interestingly enough. We've seen a lot of that lately. Very high level morale, right? Not so much used anymore, but a cool ability to have. Just it's worth knowing that. Really, we'll have a separate video at some point just talking about morale and like really where you can incorporate that idea. Because really not everybody is going to fight to the death all the time, right? You should definitely make your encounters a little bit more interesting. Has a 31 bloodline ability with Azrai, and again, some of the old abilities and new abilities that we've also recently covered. So he's got Alertness at Minor, Blood Form Great, Divine Wrath Major, Regen Minor, so that's always scary on some of these sort of badass creatures here, and Travel, Azrai or Basaya at great level, interesting. Worth 12,000 XP. He's got a strength of 19, so that's going to hurt, right? Intelligence, interestingly here they're saying 16, so obviously both can't be true. So given that he's an Anshe, right, I would feel more comfortable just give him the high level stats, right? Make him a big bad end boss type of deal. So we'll give him the 16. Dex of 16, Wisdom 14, Charisma 18 still. Constitution of 18, very formidable there, but the Charisma of 12 still. So his low stat is a 12. So his corruption into an Anshe is happening slowly, and again, he's supposedly trying to fight it. But again, he's also already sprouted a monstrous tail. His finger bones burst through the skin and formed into huge claws. His left arm is longer than his right now, disproportionately so. While his skin currently looks normal, it's as hard to the touch as chainmail, and actually grants him a natural armor class of 5, again, due to the conversion. Some predict that when he's wounded and heals, his skin will start to take on a more metallic look. And again, he was once Paladin of Avani, but all that remains of the noble figure is the armor and weapons, and they're swiftly falling to disrepair. So as he still retains his fighting skills, though, including weapon specialization with his bastard sword, which in this case, so on top of all the stuff we saw above, right, if he doesn't want to use his claws, he's got a Vorpal sword plus 3, scary stuff, but a supremely powerful weapon for a character to maybe acquire should they be able to defeat him. So he can attack with both claws for 2d4 points of damage with each claw attack. Again, I feel like whoever was writing this entry is not paying attention to what they're writing here. So I would always want to make him a little bit scarier, right? So we're going to make it, I would say, go for the double 2d8, right? Just make him that much more frightening. And he is still ashamed of his appearance, but if suitably enraged, he will actually abandon use of his weapons and slash at foes with his claws. And that could be something too. Maybe a party just gets him so mad that he abandons or tosses away his swords. Maybe the party causes him to retreat. Hey, you now have a Vorpal plus 3. Or hey, let's take the awesome weapon and run. He can also use his tail as a bludgeon, inflicting d4 points of damage and knocking foes over, if they fail a dex check. Again, the d4 for the tail seems a little weak as a type of like special attack. I would just probably put that in line with everything else he's got going on. So maybe like either a 1d8 or a 2d8 there. So and still with the knockdown ability as well. So that basically is just again him as a profile here. So mainly a fighter type, right? No more of his paladin abilities. Would have been interesting to see if he had like developed sort of like a fallen paladins type of abilities, but I don't think that was really a thing yet back in second for the most part. The domain, right? It's simply called the Manticore's domain. It's north of the Raven, who we'll be turning to next, actually. Not available for PC use, obviously. The realm is neutral evil. And it contains 4 provinces. Aerosmith at 2, Madrick and Morins, 2 provinces at 4, and a province 1 called Akati. While Ure acts as the servant, he truly controls many holdings within the domain, right? He's kind of the political figurehead. Law, he passes all military commands to the army from the Manticore himself, thus controlling the law of the land. Local leaders are restless, though, and there's a resistance movement forming, though none can yet challenge the Anshe. Temple holdings are controlled by the local priests of Krisha. Ure plans on goading the Manticore into destroying their main temple at Morins, as religion gives people hope and respite, even, I guess, Krisha's religion, but gives them the hope and respite to resist the tyranny of their rule. So, Yuri's manipulation of trade with Velanoye, Melie, and Zoloskaya have given him bulk control over domain guilds. He also has a rare spell components trade with other Anshe, so that because they need to get more powerful. So particularly with two nasty ones, the Magian, which we just covered. Check out our video on that, and also the White Witch, which we've not gotten to as an Anshe yet, but we have covered her realm. So that's a pretty distant customer as well. So there's that could be an interesting connection to explore for the players should they discover that somehow, maybe disrupt that trade. Could be pretty lucrative for them to catch that and then steal some of those components as well. All magical sources are currently uncontrolled, though sharp eyes keep watch over them should anyone attempt to use the power against the Manticore. Many wizards capable of tapping that power have been methodically killed by both Yuri and the Manticore. So there we see the stats, and actually it's fairly settled land, right? 2 3s and 2 4s. Regency, not too much. 18/6 there, right? Generated, accumulated. Gold, 10 accumulated or generated and 4 accumulated. Ure, 6 gold bars turn go to the Manticore. And then the army, as such, is a small army compared to the size of the domains of the more, and many of its more honorable commanders and soldiers met death in attempts to rid the domain of the Manticore. So basically all the internal opposition has been purged for the most part. Currently, there's 3 units of light infantry within the standing army. So Voss infantry, and you can see them there. If you needed to, you could come up with like an army card as well. The regent, so special pronunciation for him, Eore, is a Voss wizard, right, which is already pretty rare. Also Azrai blood. He's the true domain ruler. And through the Manticore, the world does believe that the Manticore controls the land, although he's behind all the politics of the realm, basically. So he pays the taxes, builds the armies, deals with foreign powers, etc., etc. And this secret is really only known to the Manticore, Yore, and Yore's wife, Nichelle. He does not enjoy playing the cowardly sycophant, but it does afford him a way to ferret out rivals and keeps him safer than most rulers sitting on their thrones, making themselves targets. So he is, in fact, responsible for the domain's current situation. He eavesdropped on the prince's audience with his friend Kandar upon his arrival, hoping to overhear something to use as blackmail. And he discovered the paladin's loss of faith, his corruption by the Magian, and his hopes that he could keep this blood taint under control. The prince agreed and swore a vow of secrecy to his friend, although Yore built a bond of trust with Kandar over a few months and then let loose his secrets to gossip. Gossips and others blamed the prince for the impropriety. And then that's what caused his rage, and he basically slaughtered the whole royal family at the banquet, where the gossip exposed his shame. That day he grew his claws and tail and began his status as the Manticore. Yore, once 9th in line for the throne, was now the heir, but he was forced into a life of servitude under my family destroyer to save my life. Now, for years, he's managed the Manticore, working with him as a friend and allowing no one else to see him. It's a partnership that still works, and the brooding Kandar would rather be left alone in his misery. Invaders, including the Raven, stay outside of his borders for fear of the Anshe ruler, although once we get to the Raven, right, we'll see just how powerful he is too, so that might not be something that will always continue to work. Now, Yore's method for ridding himself of troublesome warriors and nobles is unique, so he recruits them to kill the nasty beast that is despoiling our fair land, but to no avail. Dozens of his finest, most honorable warriors and spellcasters have been dispatched throughout the years in hopes of sending the beast to its final resting place. But the brave men and women never return. He is yet to have anyone suspect his duplicity, and those that have met the Manticore pretty quickly afterwards. To maintain appearances that the government wants to be rid of the Manticore, he does have a standing 5,000 GP reward for the Manticore's proven death, though he certainly doesn't wish anyone to claim it soon. And that could be one, too, if, let's say in an adventure or campaign, the party maybe takes on this bounty and actually proves capable of doing it, and they come to collect, and then maybe that's where he finally gets exposed for the little rat that he is. But he should not be without his own weapons and stuff, right? So and skills, right? He's a level 7 wizard with bloodline, so a de facto ruler of a realm. So he should have some nasty surprises for players too. Now, lieutenants, there are no lieutenants aside from his wife, simply because he's paranoid and trusts no one. So, on the public, he's basically this much beleaguered servant and advisor and mouthpiece of the Manticore, kept at his side for fear that the Anshe will slay his wife. So, he's running a kind of a ruse on everybody. Important NPCs as such, there's a famous herbalist named Morita Greenfingers, very likely a halfling, lives in the sparsely populated province of Aerosmith. She's best known for the ability to grow any plant in any condition or environment. The plants she works with are excellent components for spells and potions, making her services much in demand. Actually, she may still be a human. I think I'm mixing that up with a different halfling, actually. But I don't think they give any further description, so you could come up with something there. The domain borders the Raven's northern perimeter and is hemmed on the east by the Sea of Dragons. Mountain range lacking in quality ores helps stabilize the western border with Rovninodensk. Aerosmith, the domain's southernmost province, is populated by a small bandit group called the Order of the Horn that makes its living by blocking trade routes and demanding a toll. If the toll is not paid, the bandits take everything, including lives. Madrick, a province with leylands to all other provinces in the domain, is in fact the Manticore's home. Several army units reside here, trying to keep the Manticore at bay. Yore, the domain's true regent, has lost more troops to the Manticore's voracious appetite than to any outside influences. The capital, Morins, is relatively small, set up as two separate cities. One, the main city and port on the bay, and one fortified small city set a mile south of it. Both are referred to as Morins, though one is officially the port of Morins, and the other is colloquially known as the Manticore's Lair. The southern lair used to be the major seat of the ruling family, but it's now just an empty castle inhabited by Yore's family, the Manticore, and a number of press gang servants from surrounding areas. So a pretty frightening place to have to live, certainly for regular people. Trade goods as such, basically they export plants used for magical potions and such to every area of the world. So most of the plants are grown in the province around Aerosmith under the scrutiny of Morita. Ores and weapons are a great import since the northern mountains really aren't quality ore producing areas. The only allies are those who depend the most on the domain's imports of rare herbs and plants, so the Magian and the White Witch really depend heavily on that, so you get some support there, or the Manticore gets some support, right? This isn't for players. And really, the Manticore has no clue that this is going on because this is all just a game and a con job essentially set up by Yore. The enemies, the Raven is a quiet, respectful enemy, and he bides his time against the Manticore's rulership. The Raven's spies did find out the secrets of how the domain is run, and the former warlord Tusalov simply awaits for the delicate House of Cards to fall on the greedy servant of the Manticore. Once that occurs, basically he's going to be right on the doorstep, looking to conquer the domain and somehow then deal with the Anshe here, right? So the Manticore. And really, what better way for a party to come along, slay the Manticore, think they're the heroes. Hey, we beat the big bad end boss. We exposed Yore, maybe even dealt with him, right, as maybe like a little extra boss here, and hey, yeah, the parties, they're feeling good, blah blah blah. We've done such a great thing. We got some fancy magical loot. We got the that Vorpal sword +3. Wow, look at us, the heroes. And then the DM could pull a nice swerve here and oh, what's going on? Oh, we're being invaded by the Raven, another super powerful Anshe as well. So that could be a fun sort of surprise, sort of kick in the gut for the players. Oh no, it's not over yet. You can either deal with the Raven or take the better option, likely run to safety. So the Manticore is an Anshe brought into being by the Magian, in fact. So when he was captured by the Riders, again, check the Magian's entry. Such a cool Anshe. He actually showed his blood powers, and the Magian basically wanted to make him into his own sort of creature. And learn more about that. So that's why he was held in a dungeon for months. The Magian studied him, basically almost like sort of a Frankenstein experiment. And he was, in fact, the only survivor when the Magian perfected his new spell with the blood form, or the bloodline corruption. So, and during that, the Magian basically that's how the Magian really added Azrai's blood into Kandar. and he still kept his own blood abilities, but he gained blood form and other abilities and became the Corrupt Anche. So Bloodline Corruption, again, we'll cover it in detail in a separate video, but basically it's a special unique ability that the Magian came up with here as a spell, and so basically they get pumped full of Azrai's bloodline and gain some Azrai abilities while still maintaining some of their own. So pretty potent stuff here. Again, only one successful experiment, and that is the Magian turning Kandar into the Manticore. So a fun Anche here, certainly pretty high up there as far as power goes, although fairly straightforward too. It's not one of these just insanely powerful beings like the Magian. In fact, was with being a level 20 wizard, but then also controlling this just like elite unit of what would otherwise be formidable monsters in and of their own right for characters, but that's just like his sort of like elite advisors. Now the Manticore is just nice and straightforward. It's a fighter, essentially, that is pretty nasty, but there's a neat sort of like extra layer of things going on here, and the players have a chance to really do some good by ridding the world of the Manticore. But again, you have this sort of neat house of cards here where the Magian might have some concern and start getting involved if you kill his sort of only successful experiment here. So that's already particularly frightening, right? But then, as we mentioned, the Raven is really just waiting for the house of cards to fall and either the Manticore to be slain or Yore to be exposed, or both. And then you could have a neat new conflict there where, seeing the Raven and maybe the Magian butt heads, but then you're stuck in the middle too. So nasty stuff overall. Let us know, guys, if you've run a campaign around the Manticore and how that's worked for you. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.